Anyway, so the merit of our learning tonight should be the fua for Sherry's father. Hi, Sherry. How are you feeling? For Ruben Shimshon Ben Rivka, and for anyone else who needs a refuah. And as always, the fuss of my preparing and learning should be an aliyah neshama for my father, Nisan Yosef Halevi Ben Chava. So I emailed, I think I emailed all of you this summary of what we're doing. So that's just the top sheet. If you read it already, that's just what we've done up until now, up till chapter 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the first 4 sections of chapter 3 tonight, and then we'll talk a little bit about the parsha about Shavuot and try to connect everything. So that's the plan. And what's interesting is what I didn't realize when I sent this out is that he starts the 3rd chapter with a review also of what he did till now. So instead of going over mine, let's start with the Ramchal's review. So if you want to grab a book, we're on page 44, the beginning of chapter 3. And he's saying, as we discussed, man is the only creature created for the purpose of cleaving to God, of how we were created in order to have a relationship with God. Only man is placed between perfection and deficiency with the power to earn perfection. And Ariella pointed out sometimes the Hebrew is much more beautiful than the English, and the Hebrew says, Hayacholot biyado liknot hashlemus, and shlemus means being whole, like we talked about. So what does it mean to be whole? No, there's nobody who's perfect. As a matter of fact, it says, and someone might remember the Hebrew pasuk, that there's no one who's a tzaddik who did all good and no bad. So we're all going to have our ups and downs, but the question is, who are you really, and what do you do with the gifts you were given? A lot of times we read tzaddik stories like we read about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It says that when he was 5 years old, he used to leave his house and there was a typhus epidemic, and he used to leave his house and go bring water to people who had typhus. So obviously that's something way beyond most 5-year-olds. So he was born on a different level than most of us. Most of our 5-year-olds wouldn't think of going to bring water to sick people. But the question is, what he did with these gifts, and later in life we see he went on to become a great man, and what he did with the gift he was given was very conscious and deliberate. So if we move on to the second paragraph, man must earn his perfection, however, through his own free will and desire. If he were compelled towards perfection, then he wouldn't really be the master of it. So he's saying if someone acquires shalemus, this perfection of his character, by force, he's not considered perfect because he didn't do it on his own, or if God would have gifted us. Why didn't he make us perfect? And we talked about how you have to earn it, so you can maintain your dignity. Remember, this is a review of what we've done. Rather, he who compelled him will be the one responsible, HaShem, and God's purpose would not be fulfilled. And it was therefore necessary that man be given free will. The Hebrew for that is al kein hochbach sheyanuach hadavar lebechira. So that's what we said. He gave us free will so that we could feel, not just so we could feel good about what we earned, but so that by achieving, by working on it, by struggling through our challenges that we all have in life, that's the only way we can be godlike, because we're building ourselves. We could attain a connection to HaShem through that, and be balanced between good and evil, and not be compelled towards either. He has the power of choice, and to be able to choose either side knowingly and willingly, and possess whichever one he chooses. So it's possible to know intellectually what's right, but your will compels you not to do it. And the best example I can think of that, and I might have given it already, is smoking. Most people who smoke know intellectually, this is not something I want to do, this is not good for me. So you can know with your intellect that something's wrong, but you can still, your will can possibly be not strong enough to overcome the desire to smoke. So man was therefore created with both a good urge and an evil urge, Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Ra, and he has the power to incline himself in whatever direction he chooses. So the Yetzer Tov is what the Ramchal is calling perfection and coming closer to HaShem, and the Yetzer Ra is deficiency. And Yetzer really comes from the word liyatzer, which means to form, or latsur means a picture. So he's saying, he uses that word because you should picture in your mind your next move. Like I can think of an example of a struggle between your inclinations. A typical example is office supplies at work. You know, bringing home a pen or computer paper or staples. A lot of people do it. There's so many rationalizations. You can think everybody does it, or you can think I work so hard for this company, or you can think it's just so much easier, and you could have an image in your mind of not of going to office supply or staples and buying your supplies, and that will lead you towards doing doing the right thing. So now he's going to start talking about the body and the soul. So look at 2. In order that God's goal, which is making free choice and in order for us to perfect ourselves, in order that goal be achieved, highest wisdom decreed that man should consist of 2 opposites. These are his neshama, sichlis, v'zaka. So he translates it as the pure spiritual soul, but sichlis comes from seichel, from intellect. So your soul is your intellect. The zaka is pure. The guf artsi va'akur, an obscure or modal body that doesn't have the clarity of the soul. Each one is drawn towards its nature, so that the body inclines towards the material, and the soul leans towards the spiritual. So Ramchal is describing 3 steps here. Step 1, that man has the tendency towards perfection and deficiency. Step 2, he has the free will to decide which one he chooses. And step 3 is that we each have the ability to carry out the decision we make. So let's pause for a minute to define free will. What do we think free will means? What's meant when we talk about free will?
To choose between the right thing and the thing you really want to do.
Okay, so
we all need to make a choice.
Or you really don't want to do.
Okay, so that's the common explanation is choices. But the reason we can't quite define it as choices is because animals have choices. I mean, if you put cabbage or meat in front of an animal, he's choosing the meat. Most animals, the carnivores will choose the meat. So does that mean animals have free will? Do animals have free will?
But that's their nature, that they're drawn to the meat.
That's their nature. So if we go to the ice cream store, it's funny, Shiri and I went last week, and I was reminded with Yehuda, and I was reminding Yehuda that my favorite flavor is cookies and cream, and he always ordered the Superman pink stuff. And then he would always eat mine, and I would always say, why don't you just get, even now as an adult, I said, get the cookies and cream, don't eat mine. So is that free will that I'm choosing cookies and cream? That's more like an animal instinct. That's my natural, that's not free will.
I guess intellect has to be involved then. You're making a choice not just based on your nature, but also your intellect.
Which ice cream has nothing to do with it.
But if you choose not to eat the ice cream, then that is free will. But if you choose to eat it, it's nature.
If you choose not to eat the ice cream because you want to take care of your body and eat healthier food, then we might be getting more into a free will. Because if I give my dog like 3 steak bones, an animal's not going to say, I think I want to diet a little, and I think the science diet is healthier for me. So maybe that is free will. But there's a difference between preference and Sherry, you touched on it when you said choosing what's right. It depends on what type of choice. Making the moral choice, or what you said, Barbara, about using your intellect. When you're choosing the moral thing, that's called free will. So it's not personal preference. It's more of an inner struggle between the moral choice and the physical. Okay, so, and that's not it's not the instinctual life force that we share with animals. So let's look at the bottom of page 42. The last paragraph, 45, sorry, the last paragraph. The two are in a constant state of battle. If the soul prevails, the soul wins over the body. It not only elevates itself, but elevates the body as well. An individual thereby attains his destined perfection. So the more victories we're giving the soul, the more you elevate the body as well. And the best example I can think of is all of you coming here. You decided it's a few days before Shavuos, or most of you are regulars by now, so you're deciding every week to take time out to come, and that's a soul decision. And then you're using your body, drives you here or walks here. Marcy might have walked. And so your legs are walking you here or driving you here, and your eyes are looking in the book, and the money, some of you, Shelly purchased her book for money. So we're using our body to do things for the soul. So when we make choices for the soul, we're elevating the body along with it. Do you have another example, or? Well, let's move on a little, and then I'm going to ask you for examples so you can start thinking about it. If he allows the physical to prevail, on the other hand, then besides lowering the body, he also debases the soul. Such an individual will be unfit for perfection and be kept far from it, God forbid. Even so, he retains the ability to subjugate the physical to his soul and intellect and thereby achieve perfection. So he's saying when the body takes over, the soul is lowered. So although the soul is spiritual, it does get dragged down by being attached to the so-called damaged body. And a personal example I can think of is, I'm going to say when I was in college, but really it happens now. Once in a while, you get together with girlfriends, and you go out and what we call pigging out. Just like let's just eat and not think about anything. We're taking care of the body, and we're saying pleasure is food, and self-nurturing is food, and loving is good, and loving yourself is good, and you're letting your body take over, and the soul kind of gets dragged down with it.
Oh, the other way around is like the Simani Rosh Hashanah, we eat things physically from that, like it's total matter, it's totally physical, but that spiritual elevates us.
We're purposely, with the Simani, we're purposely using our body to...
And everything we do physically, like shaking lulav, eating matzah.
Right, because we're meant to live in this world. We're not meant to be monks and keep away from everybody and not have intimacy and not have relationships and not have food. We're meant to use the physical things we're given in this world. Exactly, great example.
So is it always physical, these struggles? Like, for instance, you said we get together. I was expecting you to say something else. We get together and pig out. What about pigging out on Lashon Hara?
Excellent example. If we're just using our physical, using our mouths to talk Lashon Hara, then our soul gets pulled down along with us, because the soul and the body is attached. It's like a dough. When you take water and flour and you mix it together, you can't take it apart anymore. So we're all made up of this body and soul, and when we do something like decide to just use our mouth to talk Lashon Hara,
even if you're not using your mouth to talk Lashon Hara, you're thinking Lashon Hara, you're thinking bad things, then it's still like brings you down. And if you think,
so it's not always the physical things you put in, like if this is a mental thing you put into your body that's negative as well.
That's true, but it's definitely on the materialistic side, yeah. And then we also have examples from the Torah where someone's material side of him was strengthened so much that he didn't have free will. Who? When HaShem hardened Paro's heart. That was taking away his free will by making his physical side, so strong that he really lost his freedom of choice. We could go into a whole discussion of actually it was leveling the playing field, but I don't want to go there. Let's move on to 3. Now he's going to start speaking about Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba, this world and the future world. So God's goodness decreed that there be a limit to man's effort required to attain perfection. After this period of effort is completed, he attains his level of perfection and then is allowed to enjoy it for all eternity. So he's talking about the world to come. We're going to have eternal goodness forever and ever. As a general rule, however, that which pertains to good is always greater. The period of earning, that's this world, is therefore limited and lasts no longer than God's wisdom decreed suitable for his purpose. The period of reward, on the other hand, has no limit, and man continues to derive pleasure from his earned perfection for all eternity. So focusing exclusively on this life is disadvantageous because, first of all, it's brief, saying we're only here for a short time, and also we'll see things we don't understand. But Olam Haba is eternal, and there's so he's saying there's a time for earning, that's the work of this world, and a time for receiving reward, two distinct areas. And I'm going to quote David Gottlieb, who some of you met here when he was here for our Sameach. He said, I heard this online actually, he said, we'll kick ourselves if we don't do more mitzvah here, because this is the time of earning, and once you go to Olam Haba, apparently there's no more earning, we're just enjoying the reward of your work here. And we can't have them together. These two distinct arenas were created because if we had them together, we wouldn't have free will. If it was so clear to us, then there would be no. And the more we struggle, the harder it is for us to do mitzvah, the more the reward is. The saying of the amount of effort you put in is proportional to the amount of reward you get. Okay, and the last one we're going to do tonight is 4. We're on the middle of page 47. So since the period of earning this world and that of reward in Olam Haba are different, it's appropriate that man's environment and experiences be different in the two. While he's striving towards perfection, he must be in a setting containing elements necessary for such effort. The period of earning must therefore be one where maximum challenge exists, where the spiritual and physical are in constant strife. In this environment, there must be nothing to prevent the material from prevailing and doing what it can. And conversely, there must be nothing to prevent the material, the spiritual, from doing likewise. Nothing should exist that would give either one an inappropriate advantage. So what he's saying is there's a balance between the body that wants materialism and the soul that wants the depth and the achievement. And we are all created 50-50. There's nothing in your life will ever make you feel like your body wins, and nothing will ever make you see your soul as the only definition you have. So let's think for a minute. What are our real choices? Where's your 50-50? Like, no one here can say, well, my soul prevails because I don't eat treif meat, because we don't do that. That's not a choice for us. That's not difficult for us in this room. We're that's become the norm for us. So let's try to come up with a personal example or two of a place between your body and soul that's kind of a 50-50. I was thinking of that example. That's a great example. What about davening?
Sitting and talking, or standing and davening.
I was thinking of that same example. I was reading in the art scroll. You're supposed to stand when you're done with Shemona Esrei until the Chazan gets up to the Kedusha. And then the body wants to sit down and relax and talk to whoever's next to you. So I think that's a great example of the struggle between the body and soul. And when we go on next week, we're going to talk about after Adam's sin. We actually have a more difficult time, and our physical urges and the material side is much stronger. So we have to fight even harder. Any other examples of this?
Brachas. I have a problem. I'll sometimes be eating and drinking, and then I'll grab something else and eat it. Like, I don't know, whatever. And make the bracha, make the wrong bracha, or,
Yeah, you don't think that? I thought of that too.
That's kind of davening, I guess.
Shabbos, it's easy because we all do it together, but during the week, or even further, the bracha harana, like sometimes I find myself, I don't know it by heart. So, I find myself thinking, oh, well, I'll probably have something else in a few minutes, or completely forgetting. So that's another example of this 50-50 he's talking about. So we'll just finish this paragraph. Although it might seem best to make the spiritual strong, like for God, like we might say, why didn't God make the spiritual stronger? Why did he have to make it so darn hard for us? In light of man's true purpose and what God desires of him, namely that he earn perfection through his own effort, it would not be good at all. That's what we're saying. Man can only achieve this spiritual pleasure of connection to God through earned perfection. And the reason we were created was for this process of struggling through our challenges. In the period of reward, however, the exact opposite is appropriate. I find this paragraph so interesting. The more the physical would prevail, the more it would darken the soul and prevent it from being drawn close to God. Like, for example, if the body had needs, I think he's talking about olam haba now, and if the body had hunger or if the body got tired, that would take time and it would take away from the person, the soul connecting to God. During the time of reward, it's therefore appropriate that the soul prevail and the physical be totally subjected to it and not restrained it at all. Subjugated to it and not restrained it at all. So I think what this is talking about, and I didn't hear this right now, but I think this must be talking about, he's hinting to the resurrection of the dead, because he's saying that the body will be satisfied with spirituality in the future after the bodies and souls get back together, after they're resurrected. And the only comments I saw, I've been using this book that has a beautiful commentary. The only comment I saw is that he's going to elaborate on this in section 7, so I'll have to wait a little more, but I think this is his first hint of resurrection. It's for this reason that God created two worlds, this world, Olam Hazeh, and the world to come, Olam Haba. The environment and natural laws of this world are necessary for man during his period of striving. That's the free will we were talking about. The environment and laws of the world to come, on the other hand, are what is necessary for man during his period of reward. So last week Rabbi Tatz was in town, and he told a nice story about there were 3 men, and one of them was looking with his he had a pair of binoculars, and he was looking around, and he saw very far off there were a lot of people that looked like hundreds and hundreds of people that were gathering around the king's palace. So he said to his friends, hey, check it out. Look, something's going on there, but it's so far away. And the second friend said, I have a car. Why don't we go take a drive over and see what's going on? So they said, okay. And they got in the car and they went over there and they asked the crowd, why is everybody here? Didn't you hear? The king's daughter is very sick. And the king promised that anyone who can cure her will get her hand in marriage. So the third guy said, I'm a doctor. Let me go look at her. So they go inside, and sure enough, when they get a chance to go in, he figures out what's wrong, and he cures her. And the king comes out to these men, and he says, wow, I promised whoever's responsible for curing my daughter, I'm so grateful to you, gets her hand in marriage. So the first guy says, well, I had binoculars and I saw what was going on. If it wasn't for me, we would never have come. The king says, oh, that makes sense. I appreciate it. So you should get my daughter. And the second guy said, wait a second. If it wasn't for my car, we'd never have gotten over here. And the king said, oh, that makes sense too. You don't have to. You could. And then the third guy says, but I'm the doctor. And the king says, yeah, that's true. I tell you what, let's leave it up to my daughter. Let's tell her the story and we'll see what she thinks. So they go repeat the story of the princess, and who do you think the princess chose?
The guy with the car.
Guy with the car, why?
They take her places.
He must have been,
Maybe she chose none and said it was God's will.
Well, none is God's will. That relate to what we're learning. No, but she chose one of them.
She did.
So she actually chose the doctor, and this was her reason. We might have chosen the guy with the wheels.
I know I would have.
That was I know that's wild side.
She said, I want to marry the doctor because if I ever get sick again, he'll be here. So it's, the relation to this is she's choosing what's eternal, what's a lasting gift over the material, the car, or having someone who can take her around. And that's what Ramchal is telling us, that we should think about every choice we have and try to choose what's eternal, what will the lasting gifts. I was telling my sister Annette about this because of my father's recent passing, and I was really excited to tell her that, this is all about, he's gone from us for now, but there'll be resurrection, and right now he's in Olam Haba, and I'm so sure of it. I mean, and my sister wisely said, yeah, but that's the Ramchal's opinion. There's always so many opinions, so you're just reading one guy. And I said, no. Everybody agrees with him. So my sister was right, and I'm also right. So I want to share with you a few thoughts, and then we'll get back to what I told my sister. I'm going to give you some examples from Parshas Bamidbar to support what my sister said, because in the Chumash she's right. There's always so many different sources. And Bamidbar, what we're reading this week, is always read right before Shavuos, where, Shavuos is in a few days. And the reason Bamidbar, which means the desert, is always read before Shavuos is because we're asked to make ourselves, before we receive the Torah, we're asked to make ourselves like a desert. And this was told to me by Rebbe Soloveitchik when I went to Israel with Sherry. We learned with Rebbe Soloveitchik. She said, "Ein haTorah notein elo l'misha oseh atzmo kamidbar." Why? Because first of all, there's a few reasons. First of all, the midbar is hefker; it doesn't belong to anybody. Everybody has equal access to the desert, and likewise, the Torah is there for everybody. Also, in the midbar, you're thirsty for water, and we should be thirsty for Torah. And Torah, Ariella, you're nodding because you've heard Torah is compared to water. What's the Hebrew for that? I'm thinking Eitz Chaim here, but that's not what I'm thinking of. But yeah, Torah is compared to water. We should thirst for it. And the message of the desert is that the Torah didn't come to embellish civilization. Torah is civilization. So we start with nothing. Like we start with a desert, and then we build the Torah. You don't just add it to your life where it's convenient. And the fourth reason that we read about the desert before we receive the Torah is because in the desert you neutralize all your worldly pursuits. And I know I took students to Israel for many years, and we often had a few days in the desert, and somehow we managed. There was no showers, there were no restaurants, there was no bathrooms. But somehow we managed without all these materialistic things. So in order to receive the Torah, which is exactly what Ramchal is saying, because Ramchal is really agreed on all over, before we receive the Torah, we have to neutralize all these worldly pursuits. And I just heard, I was listening on my way to the airport, Helene Shapiro, that's my dog, sorry. Helene Shapiro gives a class on Sunday, and she said something so nice about the beginning of the Parsha. The first Rashi of each of the 5 books always talks about how HaShem loves us, which is really nice. So it starts by Derech Moshe Bamidbar Sinai B'Hamod Echad L'Chodesh Hasheni B'Shana Shenis Su'as Rosh Kaladas B'nei Yisrael. So it starts out Hashem speaking to Moshe in the desert, and he's counting B'nai Yisrael. So what does Rashi say? What do you count? You count what you love. A child will count candy to see how much is left, or a man will count his money. You count what you love. So Hashem is counting us because He loves us. And what Helene Shapiro added is that Shavuos is really the wedding of B'nai Yisrael and Hashem. So this continues that He counted them l'mispar shemos kol zachar l'gul gassam. The English, the Peshat, the English translation is every male according to their head count. But the word Legulgal Sam, as Shakira said, comes from the word for reincarnation. A Gilgal is a reincarnation. So when Moshe counted in Israel, there were 600,000, and each, that's the same as the number of letters in the Torah if you count them a certain way. So each person who was there at Har Sinai when receiving the Torah really gets a letter in the Torah. And it's not just for them, but it's for Legulgal Asam, it's for their future reincarnation, so it's for all of us that he was giving. And this is the wedding, and a wedding needs three things. It needs kesef, bia, and the wedding document, the ketubah. And we had all three. The kesef was the spoils they got when they were leaving Egypt, the spoils they got from the Egyptians. And the bia, the intimacy, is that HaShem said, I will bring you, and it was a national revelation. He revealed himself. Everybody heard the first of the two dibrot. And the ketubah is the Torah. So I just thought that was such a nice thought. And then in one more thought from this parsha, Ish al Diglo, he was setting up, every man in the desert was going to be by a flag. There were three tribes on the right, three in the front, east, west, north, and south. And each one had a flag up. Now, here's where my sister comes in, because she's right, there's so many different opinions. Some say there was one flag for these tribes, one flag in the east, west, north, and south, and three tribes for each. And then there's other opinions that say each tribe had a flag, and there were actually 12 flags around. So listen to the Barbanel. He says, I'm aware that he says that there were 4 flags. I'm aware that some commentators disagree with me. They have the opinion that each tribe had their own flag and their own insignia. I believe that the simple interpretation of the text bears out my opinion, which is that there were 4 flags, one for each group of 3. Nevertheless, I do agree that each one has a right to his own opinion, especially since everyone believes that his own opinion is the right one. So that's the Barbanel. But the point of the flags is that everyone knew where he belonged. There was contentment. There was no jealousy. Everyone went to his flag, whether there were 4 or 12. And Rebbe Soloveitchik in Israel, I took copious notes when Sherry and I went. So I wrote down what she said, because it agrees exactly with what the Ramchal says, which there's no, I don't think there's no different opinions on what we're learning. She said they were each confident about their job in the world, and if you fulfill your tafkid, your job, connect to the root of your soul, and let your soul overpower your body, which is exactly what we're talking about, then all your days are filled with happiness, and our challenge is to discover our own tafkid, our own job. Those who only money or power will never be satisfied, always want more, and that's like drinking salt water. You're never satisfied. It only makes you more thirsty. So these I thought that was really nice. The camps in the desert represented everyone planted firmly in their own spot. So I'll digress to a quick story, and then we'll wrap everything up. A non-Jew goes to a rabbi and says, "Teach me Torah." And he says, "Get out of here. You're not even Jewish. What am I going to teach you?" He says, "No, come on, give me a chance. Give me a chance." The rabbi says, "Fine." 2 men come down a chimney. One comes out completely dirty, and one comes out clean. Which one takes a shower? What's that?
The clean one,
Clean one. Why do you say that?
because it's a habit for him.
That's such a good answer.
He's looking at the dirty one and thinking he's dirty.
That's a good answer too. So maybe the guy was so smart, so he said the clean one for habit, or because he looked at the other guy. And the rabbi said, "Get out of here. Why would the clean one take a shower? He's clean. The dirty one took a shower. Get out of my office. I told you can't learn Torah." So then the guy says, "Give me another chance. Come on." So, okay, fine. 2 men come down the chimney. One comes out dirty, one comes out clean. Which one takes a shower? So the guy says, "The clean one." "No, the dirty one. He's all dirty. What, he's going to walk around dirty?" He looked down at himself. He saw he was dirty. Of course he's the one who takes it. "Get out of my office. You can't learn Torah." No, come on. Give me one more chance. Okay, fine. Two men come down the chimney. One comes out dirty, one comes out clean. Which one takes a shower? So he thinks, he says, both take a shower. No. How could two men come down the same chimney and one come out dirty and one come out clean? Get out of my house. So, okay, the point is, it's a joke. I heard it from Rabbi Oleman, but online on Torah Anytime. I think that's one of the sources I might have given you, Barbara. But the point is, there are shivim panim laTorah. If you look at the Torah, there's so many commentators, and they all have different opinions, and they're all correct, and they're all different. But when it comes to what we're learning here about the body and the soul, I'm hearing what we're studying, and I've never studied it before, but I'm hearing it all over. I mean, I just keep, maybe because I'm more in tune with it now because we're learning it, but I mean, this past Shabbos at Chalshuz, Rabbi Goldberg was speaking. Were you with me? Maybe. And he talked about, he quoted a book of a philosopher that's called Zebras Don't Have Ulcers. And his point was exactly what we're learning. Zebras don't have ulcers. Animals don't have ulcers because animals don't have problems, because animals don't have free will. And they're not given the opportunity to struggle through these challenges. And in davening, there's so many examples of what we're learning. I'm just going to point out a few that I noticed because I'm kind of looking for it in Shemona Esrei, where we say, listen to how many times we talk about the resurrection of the dead. We say, you're the resuscitator of the dead. And then it continues, that's 2. Again, our king who puts to death and revives. That's 4. So that's 5 right there, and that's in the Shemona Esrei, which we say 3 times a day. So 15 times a day, we're thanking HaShem for exactly what I've been struggling to believe. So there must be something to it, and there's more. In Pirkei Avot, it says, Akiva ben Mahalalel Omer said, consider 3 things and you'll not come into the grip of sin. Know from where you came, from where you go, and from whom you will ultimately give justification and reckoning. That's when, again, talking about Olam Haba. Before you, whom you give justification. Where do you come from? Place of dust, worms, and maggots. To whom will you be given justification? Before the King who reigns, the Holy One, blessed is He. And in Hallel, last example, from the Siddur, Loha Mesim Hallelu Kaf, we were singing it in Akiva for Rosh Chodesh. The dead can't praise God because that's for now. Now's the time for us to build our connection. And in the Hafti, it also talks about the body and the soul. And then on your handouts, on the second page, I just copied a page from this book, David Lieberman's book, How Free Will Works. In the top paragraph, he's quoting the Mesilas Yesharim, which was written by the same author. He's saying the foundation of, it's from a different book of the same author, where he also talks about the foundation of devotion and root of service is to clarify one's obligation in the world. And in the middle of the second paragraph, only a strong sense of purpose can give our lives the meaning and pleasure we need to endure the relentless onslaught of obstacles and distractions. And the last example of how the Ramchal appears all over is from our Parsha this week, from Bamidbar. In the beginning of the third paragraph, it says, Ela told us Aaron and Moshe. These are the offspring of Aaron and Moshe. And then it goes on, Ela Shmos b'nei Aaron. These are the sons of Aaron. So the question's asked, why does it say these are the sons of Aaron and Moshe, and then it only lists the sons of Aaron? So the answer given is that Moshe taught Aaron's sons Torah, and teaching someone Torah is like fathering them. So fathering is an expression that means being a parent to them. So, and I gave you this whole article. It comes from Moshe Twersky, but if you look at just the middle paragraph, this connection of fathering someone is the middle of the second paragraph. When did the sons of Aaron become the offspring thinking of Moshe on the day that Hashem spoke to Moshe at Har Sinai, the day of Matan Torah, because it was then he taught them what he learned from Hashem. Even on a superficial level, it was an amazing concept. It's not just allegorical, it's literal. Just as there's a birthing process on the physical plane, so there's a spiritual birthing process. And the Return of the Lost Sabbath, one's Rebbe takes precedence over to one's father, because the father brings him to Olam Hazeh and his Rebbe brings him to Olam Haba. So that's exactly what we're learning in Derech HaShem. He's saying that Olam Haba, the only way we can earn Olam Haba is by doing the mitzvah of the Torah, and that's what gives one eternal life. So I hope we can continue learning together, understanding this amazing book together, and work on elevating our spiritual over our physical. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was very good.
Thank you.
Thanks for the handout.
Sure.
We keep the handout.